If hell had a physical form, it would surely look exactly like the cold, towering castle standing here in the Hamptons. Locals call it the tomb of a mad billionaire, and tonight, that tomb is opening its doors to an uninvited guest. Leo, 7 years old, a homeless boy soaked like a sewer rat crawling up from the drains, presses his scrawny body tightly against the freezing stone wall. He trembles violently, his teeth chattering uncontrollably, but the gnawing hunger in his stomach is even more terrifying than the thunder ripping through the sky. Hurry it up. Don't let that slab of beef thaw even a little. The frozen food delivery truck driver's shouting cuts through the rain, drowning out the howling wind. I know. This crazy security system always takes a whole minute to open the gate, the delivery assistant grumbles, fingers frantically punching the control panel. That was the only chance. Taking advantage of the moment when the heavy iron gate parts to let the truck roll in, Leo holds his breath and dives through the tiny gap beneath the vehicle. He crawls and slips inside the forbidden grounds. Leo didn't come to steal gold or diamonds. Just one piece of bread, Leo whispers, his voice hoarse from the cold. Or even a bruised apple will do. He sneaks into the main hall area through a kitchen door left ajar by the delivery crew. But the instant his bare feet touch the glossy marble floor, Leo freezes. Silence. A suffocating silence blankets the vast space. No clinking dishes, no voices, no human warmth. This house feels like a monster holding its breath, waiting for its prey. The emotionless luxury of the dark crystal chandeliers and black bronze statues makes Leo feel smaller and dirtier than ever. Tap. 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 Footsteps echo from the grand staircase. Steady, heavy, and cold. Who's there? A deep voice rings out, not loud, but filled with authority reverberating off the stone walls. Panic grips Leo. He can't go back the way he came. He bolts into the darkness of the left corridor, limbs flailing as he searches for a hiding place. In front of him stands a massive oak door, carved with strange figures, slightly ajar but unlocked. It radiates a sense of forbidden territory that sends a chill down Leo's spine, but the approaching footsteps give him no choice. Leo slips inside. The room is pitch dark, filled with the scent of women's perfume, a bizarre combination. Leo backs away, trying to hold his breath and listen for movement outside. But in the thick darkness, his skinny elbow accidentally slams into something hard and cold on an expensive shelf. Crash. The sound of shattered porcelain tears through the stillness, shrill and piercing. I'm done for. Leo whispers, tears of terror welling up. He squeezes his eyes shut, waiting for a rough hand to grab his collar and drag him away. But no one rushes in. There is only the wild howl of wind outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. Boom! A bolt of lightning splits the sky, its blinding white light flooding the room for a split second, illuminating every corner. And in that fleeting moment, Leo forgets to run. He stands frozen, mouth agape, eyes wide, staring at the opposite wall. Hanging prominently in the dark room is a large portrait, set in an exquisitely carved gold frame. In it stands a stunning woman, wearing a magnificent wine-red evening gown, a diamond necklace glittering around her neck, her gaze cast downward with arrogance and power. A true queen. But Leo doesn't see a queen. He sees someone else. Sister. Alice? Leo gasps, his trembling voice filled with disbelief. He rubs his eyes and steps closer, shards of broken porcelain crunching beneath his feet, staring up at that heartbreakingly familiar face. There is no mistaking it. Those hazel eyes, the tiny mole beneath the left corner of her lips. That is his older sister, but how could that be? Leo remembers what Alice said before she left 2 years ago, when she hugged him in their leaking boarding room and pressed the last of her money into his hand. Leo, listen to me. Alice's voice had choked, her hands rough from cleaning chemicals. I'm going to work as a maid for a rich family in the Hamptons. I'll scrub toilets, wash dishes, and mop floors all day. But I'll send money home to take care of you. I promise. You're going to be a maid? Little Leo had asked. Yes, a maid. I'll wear a uniform, and no one will even look at my face. But for you, I can endure it. Ah! Those memories collide violently with the image before him. The woman in the portrait is not a maid. She doesn't scrub toilets. She stands as if she owns the entire world. Why? Leo murmurs, his trembling hand reaching up to touch the cold edge of the frame. Why does my poor sister, who went to work as a maid, look like a queen here? You said you were going to wash dishes. An overwhelming curiosity erupts, overpowering both hunger and fear. Something is terribly wrong. A horrifying secret hides behind that arrogant smile. And just as Leo rises on his toes to look closer, a flashlight beam sweeps through the crack in the door, accompanied by the click of a lock turning. The owner of the house has arrived. The door swings fully open. There is no furious shouting as Leo imagined, only a wave of cold more terrifying than anything else. Standing in the doorway is a tall man, half his face swallowed by shadow, but his eyes gleam like those of a nocturnal predator. William. Catch it, William orders, his voice low and emotionless, yet enough to freeze the air around them. Immediately, two massive bodyguards in black surge forward like a storm. Leo doesn't even have time to step back before a rough hand clamps onto his soaked collar, lifting him off the ground as if he were a filthy stray cat. Let me go. Let me go. Leo screams, thrashing wildly, his fingernails clawing at the guard's arm. You bastards. Don't touch me. Shut up, you thieving little brat. The guard snarls, tightening his grip until Leo can barely breathe. Take him outside and hand him over to the police. As he is dragged away, Leo's eyes flick once more to the portrait of the glamorous woman on the wall. Despair erupts, scorching the mind of the 7-year-old boy. If he is thrown out of here, he will never find his sister. He will starve, or freeze, and Alice will vanish forever inside this monstrous castle. What did you do to my sister? Leo screams, his heart-rending cry echoing through the marble corridors, making William, who is about to turn away, halt. Are you deaf? I asked what the hell you did to my sister. Leo continues screaming, tears and rain streaming down his dirt-smeared face. Alice said she went to work as a maid to send money home to raise me. Why hasn't she come back for 2 years? Give her back to me. The two bodyguards froze, turning to look at their boss. William stood motionless like a stone statue, his back still turned to them. But his hand was clenched tightly around the door handle, his knuckles stark white. Stop, William said. His voice was soft, but sharp as a razor. He turned around slowly, taking measured steps toward Leo. The hallway lights illuminated his face, a handsome yet gaunt face. What did you just say? William asked, bending down to look Leo straight in the eyes. Say it again. How? Leo let out a sharp breath, forcing himself to stay defiant even though his legs were trembling as they dangled in the air. He glared at the wealthy man in front of him. I said my sister Alice, Leo hissed through clenched teeth. My biological sister. She said she went to work as a maid and sent money home to raise me. You took her, didn't you? You forced her to wear those gaudy outfits, to put on all that jewelry to serve your twisted games, didn't you? A flicker of shock crossed William's cold eyes. He signaled for the bodyguards to let Leo down. The boy hit the icy stone floor with a thud. William laughed a dry, hollow laugh. A servant? A maid? He repeated the words as if they were the filthiest things on earth. He stepped closer to Leo, crouching until their faces were level. The faint scent of strong liquor lingered on his breath. Listen carefully, kid, William said, each word slow and cruel. Either you're part of some new media scam, or you're insane. But the girl in that painting was never holding a broom. You're lying. Leo screamed into his face. She's Alice, William continued, his voice hardening, his gaze drilling into the boy's soul. And she's my fiancée. More importantly. He paused, studying every expression on Leo's face. She's an orphan. She has no father, no mother, and she most certainly does not have some ragged little brother like you. William's words hit Leo like boiling water thrown in his face. The boy froze, his mouth open but no sound coming out. Fiancé? Orphan? No. Impossible. Alice had raised him since he was a newborn. She had fed him spoonfuls of thin porridge, had sung him to sleep under the stairwell of a slum. How could she be an orphan? How could she tell this man she had no family? A terrifying thought took shape in Leo's mind. This man was a demon. He had brainwashed her, or he was lying to cover up the fact that he had imprisoned her as a slave under the guise of a fiancé. "You're a fraud," Leo whispered, his eyes blazing with hatred. "You stole my sister. You forced her to deny me." William narrowed his eyes. The conviction and pain in this child's gaze were too real. It didn't look like an act. A cold thread of doubt began to creep into his heart, shaking the ironclad trust he had placed in Alice. Had Alice lied to him? She had said she was alone in this world. She had said he was her only family. "If you're lying," William straightened up, his voice returning to its usual icy calm, "I will make you regret ever being born." "But if..." He left the sentence unfinished and turned to the waiting bodyguards. "Don't call the police," William ordered coldly. "Take him to the study. Lock the door. I need to speak privately with this relative who fell from the sky." "But sir," one bodyguard tried to protest. "Do it." William snapped, a rare loss of control breaking through. Leo was dragged down the corridor into the deep, yawning darkness. He didn't resist anymore. He needed to stay here. He needed to expose the true face of this mad billionaire and save Alice, no matter how brutal the truth might be. The study doors slammed shut behind them, trapping two strangers together with secrets ready to explode. William tossed an oversized set of athletic clothes onto the expensive leather chair across from Leo, then shoved a tray of cold food toward him. "Put it on. Eat," William ordered, his voice as cold as rain striking glass. "Then you have exactly 5 minutes to prove you're not a con artist before I throw you in jail for illegal trespassing." Leo stared at the beef sandwich. His stomach twisted violently with hunger, but he didn't move. He lifted his bloodshot eyes to William, defiance still burning inside them. "I don't need your food," Leo snarled hoarsely. "I need to know where my sister is." William scoffed, pouring himself a glass of liquor. His hand trembled slightly, but he hid it by gripping the glass tightly. "You're quite the performer," he said, taking a sip, the burning liquid flooding his senses. "Alice doesn't have a brother. She told me her parents died in a car accident when she was 5. She grew up in Street Jude's orphanage. I had her records checked. They matched perfectly. They're fake." Leo jumped up, frantically digging through the lining of his soaked, tattered jacket. "She bought them. She said she wanted to bury her poor past and start over. But she never abandoned me." With trembling hands, Leo pulled out an old Ziploc plastic bag, tightly wrapped with black tape to keep the water out. He tore it open and dumped a stack of yellowed Polaroid photos onto William's polished mahogany desk. "Look at them. Open your eyes and look." William set his glass down. Reluctantly, he glanced at the photos, his initial contempt slowly freezing over. In the first photo, a young woman with chestnut brown hair was smiling brightly, holding a skinny little boy about 5 years old. They stood in front of a dilapidated house with a rusted tin roof, yet her eyes overflowed with love. It was Alice. Without a doubt. William felt his chest tighten as if someone were crushing it. He picked up the photo and turned it over. On the back, a neat line of handwriting in faded blue ink struck his eyes. "Leo's 5th birthday. I promise to give you a better life. Love you most in the world. Alice." That handwriting. William recognized it instantly. It was the same handwriting he had seen hundreds of times on notes she left on the fridge, on the cards she wrote for him. Crash. The glass slipped from William's hand and shattered on the floor. She lied," William whispered, his voice breaking. He staggered back, leaning against the bookshelf as the sense of betrayal surged through him like acid in his stomach. The woman he loved most, the woman he planned to marry, had fabricated her entire life. She had a family. She had a past. And she had hidden it all from him for 2 years. Why? Did she not trust him? Or was she just a gold digger playing with his emotions? "Do you believe me now?" Leo shouted, cutting through William's chaotic thoughts. William looked at the filthy child in front of him, then back at the photo of Alice. If he did now, William might lose his mind. Or worse, the boy would think he was a murderer. She can't come back. William replied, his voice growing distant and hollow. He turned his face away, avoiding Leo's accusing gaze. She's gone far away. Gone far away. Leo frowned, suspicion flaring again in the boy's eyes. Gone where? Why didn't she call? Why didn't she text? It's more complicated than you think, William snapped, trying to hide his confusion. She's in a very distant place. You won't be able to see her. You're lying. Leo lunged forward, grabbing the lapel of William's suit jacket. What did you do to her? Did you hurt her and hide her away? William pried Leo's hands off and shoved the boy back. He looked at Leo, the face carved in Alice's likeness, and felt a pain mixed with rage tearing at his insides. You will stay here, William declared, his voice turning cold again, locking away all emotion. But listen carefully, do not wander around this house. There are things you shouldn't see, and places you are not allowed to enter. You're a devil. Give her back to me. William slammed the door shut, leaving the child's screams behind him. He leaned against the thick wooden door, breathing hard. William kept his threat. Leo was confined within the vast mansion, a labyrinth with no escape. But for a child raised on the streets, locked doors were nothing more than an irresistible challenge. By the third day, Leo began to sense something chillingly abnormal about the place. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a luxury morgue. There were very few servants. They moved like ghosts, silently, heads bowed, never making eye contact. But the most frightening of all was Alfred, the old butler, with a face wrinkled like dried bark and eyes as sharp as a vulture's. Whenever Leo secretly poked his head out of his room, he would catch Alfred standing in some dark corner, staring straight at him. Boy, Alfred hissed behind Leo when the child was trying to press his ear against the hallway wall, making him jump. Mr. William doesn't like little mice running around. Go back to your room. You're not my jailer, old man. Leo snapped back, his heart pounding wildly. And your master is a kidnapper. He's dead. Alfred merely curled his lips into a smile that made goosebumps ripple across Leo's skin. There are things far worse than kidnapping, little one. Don't let curiosity destroy you. That warning didn't scare Leo, it only poured fuel onto the fire of suspicion burning inside him. He began to notice a forbidden area, the West Wing. The door leading to that section was always tightly shut, guarded by an electronic magnetic lock. But what was strange was that every few hours, people in white lab coats would go in and out. They carried no food or clothes, only metal trays cluttered with surgical tools and bags of pale yellow fluid. And every time that door opened, a blast of icy air mixed with a strong stench of disinfectant poured out, suffocating the entire corridor. He's doing experiments. Leo whispered, hiding behind a large potted plant, eyes wide with horror. Is he raising a monster? Or is he doing something to someone? The thought of Alice flashed through his mind like lightning. Could it be? Leo decided he had to act. He sneaked into William's study while the man was away, frantically rummaging through the drawers for clues. And then his hand touched a thick bundle of envelopes, carefully hidden at the bottom of the last drawer. Leo pulled one out, his hands trembling. The recipient's name, my beloved Leo. He tore the envelope open. Leo, I've already sent the money. Remember to eat properly. Leo crushed the letter in his fist. The date on it was from 2 years ago. The stamp was still intact, never postmarked. William had never sent them. Liar. He blocked her letters. Leo roared, angry tears streaming down his face. He cut off her contact with me. The rage turned into destruction. Leo took William's Porsche car keys and threw them into the toilet, flushing them away. He tore apart important contract files and scattered them across the floor like falling snow. He wanted that mad billionaire to reveal his true face. The study door burst open. William walked in, stunned by the chaotic battlefield. You. William looked at the shredded papers, then at Leo standing there, panting, clutching the bundle of letters. Why? Leo screamed, hurling the letters into William's chest. Why did you keep her letters? You said you didn't even know I existed. You're a fraud. Where did you lock her up? In that room that reeks of chemicals, right? William bent down and picked up one of the letters. He didn't shout. He didn't rush forward to beat Leo as the boy expected. Instead, his broad shoulders sagged, his usual arrogance dissolving, revealing utter exhaustion. I found them. William said hoarsely, after she disappeared. In her personal belongings. I didn't send them because I thought it was just some poor child she wanted to help. The address on the letters wasn't finished. Stop making excuses. Leo shouted, but his voice began to tremble when he saw William's eyes. They were not the eyes of a murderer. They were the eyes of a man drowning in pain. You want to know what's in the West Wing? William lifted his head and looked straight at Leo, his eyes bloodshot. You think I hurt her? Ha! I saw the doctors myself. Leo shot back. What the hell are you doing there? William laughed a twisted, agonizing laugh filled with despair. You're right. There's a ghost there. A ghost that haunts me every day, draining every coin and every breath from me. He stepped closer to Leo, no longer threatening. Only desperate. You want to see the truth? Fine. Don't regret it. William turned and walked out of the room, heading straight for the West Wing. Leo swallowed hard, his heart pounding as if it would burst from his chest. He knew he was about to face something horrific, yet his legs followed the lonely figure of that man as if on their own. The heavy steel door separating the West Wing from the rest of the mansion slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a blindingly white corridor. The air was at least 10 degrees colder than outside. The smell of disinfectant, medical alcohol, and that unmistakable hospital scent hit Leo's nose, making him step back and cough violently. The fury burning inside him was instantly doused with icy fear. Go in, William said, his voice hollow, devoid of any vitality. Leo swallowed, his throat dry. He crossed the threshold, his bare feet freezing against the spotless floor. The walls on both sides were not lined with artworks, but with electronic panels blinking green and red lights. The boy reached the end of the corridor, where a thick reinforced glass wall stood. Inside was a large room, but there were no soft beds, no fireplace, no velvet curtains. Only machines. Dozens of the most advanced machines Leo had never seen in his life surrounded a solitary hospital bed in the center of the room. Beep. 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 Echoed steadily, the only sound breaking the terrifying silence. And lying on that bed, swallowed by a forest of wires and breathing tubes, was Alice. Sister. Alice? Leo whispered, his voice shattering. He rushed forward, pressing his face against the cold glass. This was not the powerful woman from the portrait in the forbidden room. Nor was she the hard-working sister from his memories. The person lying there was so emaciated that her cheekbones protruded sharply, her skin pale and nearly translucent, her eyes tightly shut as if sunk into an eternal sleep. A plastic tube was inserted deep into her throat. Electrodes covered her chest. She looked like a broken doll being desperately patched together. Is she dead? Leo spun around, screaming at William, tears pouring down his face. You killed her. What kind of twisted thing are you doing to her body like this? William stepped beside Leo and placed his hand against the glass. He looked at the woman inside with pain so deep it reached his very core. Worse than that, kid, William replied, his voice hoarse. She's still alive. Her heart is still beating, her lungs are still breathing thanks to that machine. But she's not here anymore. She's been sleeping like this for a whole year. A year? Leo froze. But why? A truck accident, William said, each word squeezed out through clenched teeth. A vehicle lost control and slammed into her car at the intersection. But I refused to accept it. He turned to Leo, his bloodshot eyes blazing with the madness of a man hopelessly in love. I used money to silence everyone. I lied to the press, said she was recovering at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. I turned this mansion into a fortress, built this glass enclosure, hired the best doctors in the world to stay here around the clock. I thought my money could buy a miracle. William let out a bitter laugh and slammed his fist against the glass. But look at her. My money only bought this meaningless maintenance. She's an empty shell. She can't hear me, she can't see me. Leo looked at the man collapsing before him. The image of a tyrant or a monster in his mind dissolved. Standing before him was only a pitiful man clinging desperately to the breath of the woman he loved at any cost. Trembling, Leo pushed open the glass door and stepped inside. The air within was icy cold and thick with the smell of antiseptics. He tiptoed toward the hospital bed, afraid that even the smallest sound might shatter the fragile body lying there. He touched Alice's bony hand. Ice cold. No warm squeeze returned. Sis, Leo sobbed. It's Leo. I found you. Please wake up. I miss you so much. There was no response. Only the mechanical hiss. Hiss. Of the ventilator. Steady and indifferent. It's useless. William followed him in, leaning against the doorframe, his voice sinking into a confession. I've talked to her for thousands of hours. I begged, I screamed, I made promises. Nothing. The doctors say her brain has stopped responding. She's in a vegetative state. Leo turned around, staring at William with eyes brimming with tears. You hid her away, the boy accused, though his voice was no longer as sharp. You cut her off from the world. You told no one. You think you're protecting her, but you're imprisoning her. What was I supposed to do? William roared, his last restraint shattering. Send her to some filthy public hospital. I love her. Do you understand? I can't let her go. She needs family. Leo shouted back, gripping Alice's hand tightly. She needs me. She promised she'd protect me. She never breaks her promises. She's just waiting for me. William fell silent, watching the small child trying desperately to pass warmth to the motionless woman. He had believed in science, in million-dollar machines, in expensive drugs, but he had never believed in something as irrational as blood ties. Suddenly, an unusually sharp beep pierced the air from the heart monitor. William jolted and rushed to the screen. The once dull, steady green lines suddenly began to spike violently. What is that? William panicked. Doctor. Call the doctor now. No. Leo screamed, holding his sister's hand tightly. Look. Look at her hand. William bent down. And he saw Alice's little finger, the finger that had been motionless for 365 days, give a slight twitch. Alice? William whispered, his heart seeming to hook up. The glass doors slid open violently. A team of 3 doctors and 2 nurses in stark white protective gear stormed into the room like a sterile hurricane, shattering the fragile miracle that had just begun. Move aside. Kid, get down now. An elderly doctor with thick glasses barked, roughly swatting Leo's hand away from Alice's. You're contaminating a sterile environment. Who allowed a stranger in here? Leo was shoved backward, stumbling and crashing onto the cold floor. He tried to rush back, but William grabbed his shoulder. Dr. Evans, William spoke, his voice trembling with desperation. Her finger just moved. I swear I saw it. And her heart rate, look at the monitor. Dr. Evans glanced at the monitor, now slowly returning to its dull, steady rhythm, then sighed, removing his mask with an expression of exhaustion mixed with pity for his billionaire employer. Mr. William, he said in a flat, programmed tone. We've discussed this hundreds of times. That was an involuntary muscle spasm. It happens due to residual electrical impulses in the spinal cord, not brain activity. She cannot hear you, and she certainly did not move because of this boy. You're lying. Leo screamed from the floor, tears streaming down his face. She recognized me. Take the boy out, Evans ordered the nurses without even looking at Leo. She needs a sedative to stabilize her muscles. This agitation will only harm her body. A nurse stepped toward the bed, a syringe filled with clear liquid in her hand. Don't touch her. Leo broke free from William's grip. He didn't run for the door. Instead, with the agility of a street child, he slipped past the nurse and jumped onto the hospital bed. Leo! Get down now! William shouted in panic. You'll pull out the IV lines. But Leo didn't care. He pressed himself against Alice's unmoving body, wrapping his arms around her frail arm, pressing his cheek to her shoulder. He became a living shield, blocking any needle from touching his sister. Sis Alice. Leo began, no longer shouting, but whispering into her ear, ignoring the stunned crowd around him. They say you're sleeping. But I know you'll wake up. Please wake up. Kid, you're damaging the equipment. Dr. Evans moved to pull him away. Leave him alone. William roared suddenly, making everyone in the room flinch. He stood frozen in place, his eyes locked on the siblings. A powerful instinct told him, science had failed. Let the heart speak. Leo continued, his voice breaking, trembling as he spoke as if they were lying together on the torn mattress in their old rented room years ago. Do you remember the tailless tabby cat we used to keep? The landlord kicked it because it stole fish. I cried all night, and you hugged me, remember? You promised you'd never let anyone make me cry like that again. The room fell deathly silent. Only the beep, beep of the machines underscored the haunting childlike voice. I'm so hungry, Sis Alice, Leo sobbed, his tears soaking her hospital gown. For 2 years I've been hungry every single day. Didn't you say you went to earn money so I could eat fried chicken? Why are you lying here so long? You broke your promise. Wake up. Wake up and protect me. William felt his heart constrict. Every word from the child stabbed into his conscience. That's enough, kid. Dr. Evans shook his head, signaling the nurses. That's enough. Pull him away. But just as a nurse's hand touched Leo's shoulder, beep, 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 the heart monitor suddenly roared, faster and stronger than at any point over the past year. The numbers on the screen went wild. What the hell? Evans froze, eyes wide, behind his glasses. Blood pressure spiking. Frontal lobe brain activity. Sister? Leo lifted his head, staring intently at his sister's face. And then, the unthinkable happened. From the corner of Alice's tightly closed eye, a clear tear slowly rolled out, sliding down her pale cheek, mingling with Leo's tears. Her eyelids trembled slightly. Then more strongly. Her hand, which had been lying motionless in Leo's grasp, suddenly tightened. A light, weak squeeze, but real. William. Leo shouted, his face lighting up. She's crying. She can hear me. William rushed to the bedside, casting aside all restraint. He dropped to his knees beside it, gripping Alice's other hand. He felt warmth spreading, felt life surging powerfully from within the body that had seemed completely withered. Alice? William called out, his voice breaking. Can you hear Leo? Can you hear me? Alice's dry lips moved. No sound came out, but the shape of her mouth was clearer than ever. L-E-O. Dr. Evans dropped his stack of files onto the floor. He staggered back, muttering. Impossible. Medically, this is impossible. William bowed his head onto Alice's hand, his shoulders shaking violently. Hot tears from a grown man fell onto the spotless white bedsheet. He had been wrong. Completely wrong. I'm sorry, William sobbed, remorse flooding over him. I thought my money could save you. But I was wrong. I hid you away. I cut you off from the thread connecting you to life. I'm sorry. Leo looked at the powerful man crying like a child, then at his sister fighting her way back. The boy smiled through his tears and squeezed her hand tightly. Don't be afraid, sis, Leo whispered. I'm here now. I'll protect you. But Leo didn't know that just outside the glass wall, in the darkness of the corridor, a pair of old, malicious eyes was watching everything. Alfred stood there, gripping his phone tightly, his face showing no joy at this miracle. On the contrary, it twisted with fear and calculation. "She's waking up," Alfred whispered into the phone, his voice cold. "The plan has changed. We need to clean everything up. Tonight. Tonight." The atmosphere in the ICU room had completely changed. The beep, beep of the heart monitor, a sound that once felt like a countdown, now rang like a melody of hope. William remained kneeling by the bed, clutching Alice's hand as if letting go would cause the miracle to vanish. But Leo did not. The survival instincts of a child raised in dark alleys would not allow him to let his guard down. While William was lost in blind happiness, Leo retreated into a corner of the room, his sharp eyes fixed on the only man who was not smiling, Alfred. The old butler stood at the doorway with his arms crossed, his wrinkled face twisted not by emotion, but by something far darker. He stared at the numbers dancing on the monitor with the eyes of a man who had just seen his own death sentence. "Sir," Alfred spoke, his voice syrupy sweet, though Leo could hear the hiss of a venomous snake beneath it. "You should rest a little. And the boy as well. Let the doctors work. Excessive emotion is not good for either you or the madam." "No," William replied without turning around. "I'm not going anywhere. She's coming back to me." Alfred clenched his hand, then bowed his head. "Then allow me to step out and call the nutrition specialist. The madam will need a special diet when she wakes." He turned on his heel and quickly left the room. Leo glanced at William, but the billionaire was now deaf and blind to everything around him except his wife. The boy knew he had to act on his own. Leo quietly slipped out of the ICU, following the hunched silhouette of Alfred. The old butler did not head toward the kitchen. He turned into a dark corridor leading down to the wine cellar, a place Leo had never been. Leo didn't dare step on the wooden floor. He recalled the house's layout from the emergency evacuation map. Carefully, he removed the cover of a ventilation opening near the floor and squeezed his small body inside. The dusty, narrow duct led straight to the electrical control room in the basement. Alfred's footsteps stopped directly beneath where Leo was hiding. Then came the sound of hurried dialing. "Listen to me," Alfred's voice rang out, no longer carrying its fake deference, but sharp and vicious. "The plan has changed. That bitch, she's waking up." Leo held his breath, pressing his ear to the vent. "What? How the hell would I know?" Alfred snapped at the person on the other end. "It's because of that little bastard brother of hers. That beggar kid woke her up." Leo shuddered. "The truck accident hadn't been an accident. If she opens her mouth, you and I are finished, will rot in prison," Alfred continued, his voice trembling with rage and fear. "I cut that bitch's brake line once, I can send her off again," Alfred hissed, echoing through the cold ventilation shaft. "You handle the backup generator. I'll cut the main power. Just 5 minutes without oxygen and her brain will be gone. This time it'll be a perfect, medical incident." Leo froze. So the accident years ago hadn't been random. This old butler wanted Alice eliminated either to seize her assets or to hide the massive embezzlement he had siphoned from William while his master was consumed by grief. There was no time to be afraid. Leo crawled back, fast as a squirrel, kicked open the vent cover leading to the main corridor right above Alfred's head. Bang! The metal grate crashed down right in front of the old butler, making him jump and drop his phone. Before Alfred could recover, Leo had already leapt down, not to run, but to charge straight at him. The boy used all his strength and bit down hard on the man's wrist. "Ah! You little brat!" Alfred screamed in pain, flinging Leo violently into the wall. The heavy impact left Leo dizzy, but he forced himself up and screamed at the top of his lungs. "William! Help! He's trying to kill Alice!" Leo's piercing scream reached the ICU faster than any alarm system. William, who was holding his wife's hand, heard his name being called and immediately sensed danger. He rushed out of the room, leaving the doctors standing there in shock. William ran down to the basement corridor just in time to see Alfred struggling to his feet, gripping a cane, his deranged eyes fixed on Leo, who was curled up on the floor. "Stop!" William roared, his voice booming like thunder. Alfred turned around, his face changing color. He knew everything had been exposed. Instead of surrendering, he desperately lunged toward the main electrical cabinet to pull the breaker. But he underestimated the fury of a man who had nearly lost everything. William charged like a whirlwind, throwing a vicious hook that sent Alfred flying, his body slamming into the wine cabinet. Bottles of red wine fell and shattered, spilling across the floor like a blood-red omen of the traitor's end. The bodyguard stormed in moments later, pinning Alfred to the cold floor. Why? William looked down at the man who had served his family for 30 years, his voice trembling with rage. Because you're too stupid, William, Alfred spat, laughing maniacally. All you know how to do is love, not manage money. I deserved more than that. How in 910, William 910, Prox, Weedy expects is not dot. Take him away, William ordered coldly, turning his back. And call the police. Make sure he spends the rest of his life in a cell where there is no sunlight. 6 months later. Summer had arrived in the Hamptons. The once dark, cold mansion was now filled with sunshine and laughter. The heavy black velvet curtains had been replaced with white silk fluttering in the sea breeze. In the rose-filled garden, a small tea party was underway. Alice sat in a wheelchair, her complexion rosy again. Though still weak, her smile was brighter than ever. She was watching the two men of her life play ball on the lush green lawn. Leo. Pass the ball to me. William shouted, no longer carrying the dignified air of a cold billionaire, but looking like an overgrown, enthusiastic big brother. Leo, now taller, healthier, and with eyes shining with happiness, delivered a clumsy kick that sent the ball straight into the tea table. Oh! Alice cried out in mock alarm, then burst into giggles as two worried faces came rushing over. I'm sorry, Alice. Leo mumbled, but William immediately ruffled his hair. It's fine, Alice opened her arms, and both Leo and William fell into her embrace. Three people, once lonely and wounded in different ways, had now found their perfect missing pieces. William found love and trust. Alice regained life. And Leo, the once homeless boy, found the most precious thing in the world he had ever dreamed of on cold, rainy nights. A family. Alfred was sentenced to life imprisonment for attempted murder and embezzlement. And in this house, the darkness had been permanently driven away. All that remained was love, warm and sweet like the butter cookies Alice had just baked with her own hands for her younger brother. That was true paradise. Family is not only about sharing blood, but about surviving life and death together. The magnificent Hamptons mansion was, in truth, nothing more than a cold tomb until Leo appeared. The boy brought no gold or silver, but brought the flame of memory and perseverance, the only thing powerful enough to warm William's frozen heart and awaken Alice. The story affirms that in the most desperate moments, healing does not come from science or wealth, but from the sacred call of family.